Every now and then I make a video about a topic that's been playing on my mind that I'm keen to get off my chest, since I'm fortunate enough to have a platform to do so, and I find that you lot on YouTube are a lot more receptive and interested in my football rants than my girlfriend. In the past, I've made videos dispelling the bizarre myths that have been spread about Pele, the idea that Roy Keane was just a hard man and not a brilliant footballer, and why, for me, Zinedine Zidane isn't a genuine GOAT candidate to the level of a Messi or Ronaldo. Today's video is all about the top flight of French football, Ligue. I grew up in an era of Lyon dominance in Ligue 1, and they always made for great viewing in the Champions League, routinely reaching the round of 16, typically the quarterfinals, and once the semi-finals. The Lyon side of that era could boast the majestic free-kick maestro Juninho, more Brazilians with Fred up top and Chris at centre-back, along with a string of fantastic young players like Michael Essien, Florent Malouda, and Karim Benzema. Lyon dominated Ligue 1 in the 2000s in much the same way as PSG have dominated since 2012, but I can't recall such rapid dismissal of the league in its entirety by your average English armchair pundit back in those days. Perhaps I just missed it, but either way, it is now pervasive and impossible to ignore. Ligue 1 is ranked 5th by UEFA's league coefficient rankings, which award points to each league based on how their teams perform in UEFA competitions, namely the Champions League and the Europa League. Now, that is a mathematical calculation, not an opinion-based one, so the counter-argument naturally tends to be that PSG's performance give the division as a whole a false reading in the coefficient rankings. I want to make it clear that I'm not saying Ligue 1 is better than or even as good as La Liga or the Premier League, but I do think it is the 5th best league in Europe in terms of the quality of the teams in the league overall, and I also think the division can justify its place as often being referred to as one of the big 5 within the European game. My objection primarily lies with the idea that everyone outside of PSG is useless and the stupid phrase that we keep hearing, Farmers League. I'm not sure where this whole Farmers League nonsense started, but it is a phrase which appears to have seeped into the conscience of football Twitter if nothing else. I've seen the Brazilian League dismissed as a Farmers League, the Championship, the Eredivisie, even Serie A. Now, personally, I find the phrase to be deeply irritating, regardless of which league it is being used in reference to. Unless it is an actual football league exclusive to farmers, which is called the Farmers League, of course, in which case it would be a perfectly understandable, and I would suggest, very apt name. However, even when used to describe genuinely low-quality leagues in relation to Europe's major divisions, it just seems incredibly arrogant and stupid. I don't want this to sound like too much of a personal attack on anyone who's used the phrase in the past, don't get me wrong, I've said plenty of stupid things in my time, but I'd wager that the vast majority of those who use the phrase on Twitter, with usernames like Fantastic Fabinho and Majestic Mahrez, would probably be made to look pretty foolish, even if you stuck them in the Gibraltar National League or the Isthmian League South Central Division. I'll leave that little tirade to one side for now though, since Ligue 1 is the subject of this video, but calling Ligue 1 a Farmers League is particularly mindless. One of the reasons why I decided to make this video was that I saw the Match of the Day Twitter account share a video of a goal scored by Kylian Mbappe about a week ago. Now, the responses were pretty much as you would expect. Lots of people saying their grandma could do a better job defending than the opposition players, others saying their pet hamster, who was run over by a car 17 years ago, could score 30 plus goals in Ligue 1, and yes, plenty of people vomiting up that dreaded phrase. Sadly, the tweet has since been deleted, perhaps the BBC grew tired of the torrent of morons in their mentions, so I can't show you any screenshots. But you get the picture. It was all the usual stuff. As someone well versed in the footballing Twitter sphere, this came as no great shock. It is the same response you get to videos of players doing anything in virtually any league other than the Premier League, although there does seem to be a particular snideness when it comes to Ligue 1. What put a bee in my bonnet on this occasion more so than others was the fact that the goal was scored against Lyon, who are in the round of 16 in the Champions League and currently lead Juventus 1-0 on aggregate following a victory in the first leg. Also, the defender that Mbappe committed one-on-one was Jason Denayer, a Belgian international, who I suspect Pep Guardiola wouldn't mind having back at Manchester City given his current struggles at centre-back this season. Call me crazy, but maybe, just maybe, it is more likely that Kylian Mbappe, a two-time Ballon d'Or nominee, World Cup winner, and one of the outstanding young players of his generation, did something really good, than it is that Jason Denayer, a full international for the national team ranked number 1 in the world by FIFA's world rankings, is worse at defending than your 97-year-old grandma or brain-damaged hamster. I quote-tweeted the since deleted tweet pointing out as much, only for a HITC Sevens subscriber and Twitter follower to argue that Ligue 1 was indeed, that's right, a Farmers League. As I'm sure many of you are aware, HITC Sevens subscribers are well known to be the most well-read and best-informed football fans on the web, with an understandable disdain for the daft and a haughty arrogance that comes with such status. The fact that even a HITC Sevens fan, and again I don't want to bring anyone personally into the discussion, could hold such views made me realise that this is a misunderstanding which expands far beyond just the dregs of football Twitter and the type of knuckle-draggers who watch Football Daily or that other HITC channel who are so simple that they're mesmerised by a scarf. My HITC Sevens Twitter friend, who I bear no ill feeling towards, I just think he's wrong on this single issue, pointed to players who have struggled in the Premier League and performed well in Ligue 1 as evidence that the division was, quote, horrific. He pointed to examples such as Memphis Depay, Florian Thauvin and Nicolas Pepe. Aside from the fact that I think it's a little early to write Pepe off in his debut campaign, the Ivorian has 10 goal contributions in 16 starts in the Premier League this season for the record, he's certainly right that there are a number of players who have found life much easier in Ligue 1 than they have done in the Premier League. Now, Christian Stuani scored just 4 goals in an entire Premier League campaign with Middlesbrough and bagged 21 in the season immediately following that one in La Liga. Meanwhile, Joselu could barely tie his shoelaces at Newcastle last season and has bagged 9 in 26 at Alaves this season. So the same is true of any league. More pertinently though, if we're going to give a fair assessment of the league, surely we must also consider those who have arrived in the Premier League and performed just as well, if not even better, than they did in Ligue 1. Dimitri Payet, for example, rocked up at West Ham having scored 8 goals in his most prolific campaign with Marseille, only to score 12 in his debut campaign in English football, making the PFA Team of the Year and winning both the London Player of the Year and Hammers Player of the Year awards as one of the outstanding players in the division that season. What's more, Payet is far from an isolated case. From Robert Pires and Patrice Evra many moons ago to Fabinho and N'Golo Kante right now, with the likes of Michael Essien and Eden Hazard sandwiched in between, some of the best players we've seen in the Premier League, both past and present, have been Ligue 1 imports. There are even examples of players such as Youri Tielemans, who didn't really set the world alight in Ligue 1 with Monaco, but was fantastic during his half-season on loan in the Premier League, prompting Leicester City to make him their club record signing. The 2016 PFA Player of the Year Riyad Mahrez, who is among the most dangerous wide men in the English game, didn't even come from France's top flight, but was actually plucked from Ligue 2 side Le Havre, also by Leicester City. In European competitions, French sides have reached 15 major finals. This season, of the 3 Ligue 1 sides in the Champions League, PSG topped their group ahead of Real Madrid, Lyon progressed finishing above Benfica and Zenit St. Petersburg, and Lille finished bottom of their group behind Valencia, Chelsea and Ajax. PSG lost their first leg in the round of 16 away at Borussia Dortmund 2-1, whilst Lyon beat Juventus 1-0 at home. Lyon's result is particularly impressive bearing in mind that they have had a disappointing league campaign, languishing outside of the European places with their star man out injured. Last season, PSG beat Liverpool and topped their group before throwing away a lead against Manchester United. Lyon went unbeaten in the group stages, drawing with Man City at home and beating them at the Etihad, before losing against Barcelona in the round of 16. Meanwhile, Monaco finished bottom of their group in the midst of a disastrous campaign in which they only narrowly avoided relegation. There were only 2 French teams in the 2017-18 Champions League group stages, as a freshly ravaged Monaco side finished bottom of a tough group, whilst PSG once again topped their group with a remarkable 25 goals scored in just 6 games, including a 3-0 win against Bayern Munich. The Parisians had the misfortune of being drawn against Real Madrid in the round of 16, who beat them en route to winning their 3rd consecutive European crown. The season before was very different for Monaco, whose fresh young squad under Leonardo Jardim lit up the Champions League. The Ligue 1 side topped their group as the man who inspired this video, Kylian Mbappe, announced himself to the world, before beating Manchester City and Borussia Dortmund over 2 legs to reach the semi-finals. PSG, meanwhile, progressed from their group and beat Barcelona 4-0 in the first leg of the round of 16, only to lose 6-1 in the second leg and get knocked out. I don't want to sit here reeling off the entire history of French clubs in European competition all the way back to Reims, reaching the final of the first ever European Cup in 1956, but you get the idea. Whether it be the Ligue 1 exports, some of whom have succeeded and some of whom have struggled just like players from literally every league, or Ligue 1 teams in European competitions who perform exactly as you'd expect of the league ranked 5th by UEFA's coefficients, hopefully this video has gone some way to dismissing this tedious nonsense that Ligue 1 is a woeful league. I suspect there are some of you out there right now who are thinking Alfie, or HITC Sevens guy, depending on how well frequented you are with the channel, it's just a joke. The whole Farmers League thing is just banter, and you've made a 10-minute video about it. The problem is, I'm not so sure it is. Since his world record breaking move to PSG, there are plenty of people who no longer consider Neymar to be a world-class footballer. It's a classic case of out of sight, out of mind, with only those who haven't seen the Brazilian play much over the last few years thinking that he's no longer at least one of the 5 most talented footballers on earth. When those who actually have watched him play, frequently or infrequently over the last few years, try to explain that he's actually been superb this season, it's dismissed as, well, only in a farmers league, or something to that effect, and those people are deadly serious. It is true that Ligue isn't as good as La Liga, and that Neymar has failed to single-handedly drag the Parisians to their first Champions League triumph as he had perhaps hoped upon his arrival. But the idea that he's anything other than one of the best footballers in the world is totally daft. If he joined Real Madrid, Barcelona or Man City in the summer and just maintained his current level of performance, everyone would be singing his praises once again. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to get off my chest. I've managed to slag off everyone who dismisses Ligue 1, Football Daily, The Irish Guy, and even one of my own subscribers all in one video, and I wonder why I haven't yet hit the 1 million subscribers mark. Hopefully that was all taken in jest, as it was of course intended, although I'm not joking about the phrase Farmers League, that really does piss me off, and I'm not joking about Ligue 1. It is deservedly considered to be one of Europe's big 5 leagues, even if it is the 5th best out of those 5. Thank you all for watching, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and want to help counteract the countless dislikes I'll probably get. At the same time, leave your thoughts in the comments, unless they're really stupid, and make sure you are subscribed to HITC Sevens.